All right, music fans, welcome back. Harmless Dave here, talking real music in real time for real people just like you and just like me. So, Fleetwood Mac, the saga continues. The idea that they might actually get back together again with Lindsey Buckingham. Like I said yesterday, that's going to be up to Stevie Nicks. I think she holds literally all the cards. I think she's afraid to go out there in public these days based on all of the fear and stuff that she was promoting last fall and telling everybody what they ought to do. Of course, she has the luxury of having people who can do these things for her, whereas most of us don't have that luxury. So it was an interesting few months of giving people advice on how to live their lives and so forth. So I'm not sure if she's really sort of tethered to that whole idea of not going out because, there are certain people out there who are saying things like, things won't get back to normal until the spring of next year. And each time we enter a new season, they push it out further. Now, of course, if you're in Texas or Mississippi or Florida or South Dakota, you're living a different existence, which I think is a good thing. I know it's a controversial thing, apparently, to say that today, but a lot of people like breathing air and not CO2. So let's get back to the whole issue here because it's easy for me to get off on a tangent with this subject matter. It's Fleetwood Mac being Fleetwood Mac, and that's why people are more accepting because this has been their history. I was wondering all along if this was just a stunt to get more people involved. You bring in those two guys who, again, they give you name ID and so forth. And this is the big deal today where you create your little all-star band and one guy gets up there and sings a Crowded House song. The other guy attempts to do a Tom Petty song. And okay, but it's not Fleetwood Mac. But see, we're living in the era of casual fandom, and those casual fans, they just want to go out. They'll hear some music that sounds vaguely familiar to them. Doesn't sound like what they hear on the radio, but it's close enough. And you can make the argument that, your local band down the street who does, covers at the local bar, they might come closer. And you'd be much more involved. You'd be right there in the front row, sitting at a table and drinking adult beverages and thinking to yourself, yeah, this is probably better than spending $200 on a nosebleed seat and then paying $14 for a beer. I mean, everything is about experience these days. And if you're going to have a crappy experience and you're not going to see the original band and so forth, then why pay all that money? Well, it's supply and demand. There are enough people out there who are casual fans. We see this with other bands who are out on tour who have no original members or maybe one person who's tied to the past, but the band itself sounds kind of familiar and people are thinking, well, it's a night out on the town. Let's just do it. So the Fleetwood Mac dysfunctionality sells tickets to people who aren't really that concerned about the history of the group. They're not concerned about the whereabouts of the guitar player who was told that he couldn't be in the band anymore and so forth. They're not really that concerned. And this is kind of sad because for those of us who grew up with this music, we're all like, it's not the same. It's even more disconnected from the original band when you don't have the original members, and the members who are left don't sound anything like they used to sound like. So it's like a two-pronged defeat. That's why, things like rumors of Fleetwood Mac, that's becoming a big deal. Or Voyage, the Journey tribute band that I like so much, and I like a few others, but really, if you want that Journey experience or you want that Fleetwood Mac experience, there might be better alternatives at a much lower cost to you. I mean, if you're going to plunk harder and money down, um, look, Christine McVie, she's a great musician. She is, you know, a rock goddess to some degree. But guess what? She doesn't sound like she used to. And the last tour was kind of rough. I did a couple of videos on the topic, and I listened to a few minutes of it, and I was just, it's sad. It's not that I blame her. I mean, mortality and aging, those things are just natural things that occur. But it's almost like, okay, I'm going to get out there. One thing that Peter Cetera said as he decided to quit is that I don't want to be one of those guys up there that sounds like crap, and people saying, why is he still doing this? He just should call it a career and stop it. You know, there aren't a lot of guys and gals who get older who can still do what they used to do. There are a few exceptions, obviously. One that comes to mind to me is Tony Bennett. Okay. Tony Bennett, for some reason, it's the style of music he sings. And there are a lot of these crooners, guys who are still out there who you probably forgot about. Paul Anka comes to mind. Engelbert, if you know who he is, he comes to mind. These are guys who just continue to go out there in their 80s and so forth and deliver performances, and their fans are happy. Of course, they're not singing, you know, hard rock or anything. They're crooning, but they've been able to preserve their voice and have an ensemble, a backing cast of characters that help them deliver. So we shall see if the dysfunction causes people to say, I want Dysfunction. I want to get out there and see this dysfunctional band reunited one last time. And yeah, for some people, it's closure to see their rock heroes up there on stage together, attempting to get along, maybe going just to see if there'll be any difficulties. Will Stevie look at Lindsay the wrong way? Will Lindsay, you know, smirk? These are seriously, this is a motivator for some people to say, okay, I'm going to go and see if there's any turmoil. Maybe it'll just be a rousing version of Landslide with the two of them up there again. And you don't want to miss that. As like a rock historian, you want to be there for that event because it'll be epic, right? This is the mystique and the dysfunction of Fleetwood Mac. And yeah, it really does sell tickets.